All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the MR.talks podcast. Today, we will be diving into my love for the movie theater and how it really became a safe space for me to go when I want to get away from all of life's worries and everything like that. We're also going to dive into talking about loneliness after high school, because I feel like there's so much time when you're a a young kid growing up and you're doing the same thing as everyone else and everything is basically set up for you for the first 18 years and you get thrown into the wild basically to figure everything out. So we'll talk about it, all right? This is called I enjoy going to the movies by myself. I enjoy doing this activity in solitude because it brings me so much peace. I enjoy that there's no one else to worry about, so I can just put on my comfy clothes and even arrive late if I want to. I enjoy the smell of popcorn and the taste of a sweet treat. I even enjoy the Nicole Kidman intro before the movie starts. But most importantly, I enjoy being immersed into a new world and being distracted by all of life's worries for 2 hours. Going to the movies by myself is my favorite way to treat myself. I always find myself so at peace when I go to the movies by myself. Whether it's a movie that makes me laugh, scared, sad, or even makes me question my existence after watching it, I get distracted and not think about all the other worries I was dealing with throughout the day or even the week. It's the best way to de-stress in my opinion. All I have to be concerned about is the world that I will be imagining that I'm in for 2 hours and how much the popcorn bucket cost, which, by the way, are not cheap as they used to be. I find myself in this very calm realm when I exit the theater. I find that a lot of the worries that I had aren't that serious, and the fact that I was able to enjoy myself for 2 hours makes me feel grounded. I first went to the movie theaters by myself when I was 13, and I believe I was in the 8th grade or it was the summer going into ninth. I didn't really have a lot of friends because I moved to a new school that year, which was just a town over, but it was still hard to keep in contact with people at my old school. Typically, the case would be my mom goes with me, but she was so busy with work and actually suggested I go on my own. I thought it was strange that she suggested that because she always instilled in me that if I was by myself in public, I might get kidnapped, but it was probably because I was getting older. So when I went to the movie theaters, I was absolutely terrified, and I was constantly making sure that no one was staring at me from afar with a black coat. But I still got a popcorn and drink and went to my seat. But the feeling of loneliness kind of set in because I was watching so many other people with friends and family, and I got so overwhelmed and embarrassed because no one wanted to go see this movie with me. I actually didn't go to the movies by myself again until I was 19. When I turned 18, it was the first year of my life where I wasn't in high school and I was considered an adult. This was also the first year I kind of lost a whole friend group, and my other friends weren't really home because they went away for college. For a whole year, I was pretty insecure and I wasn't coping in a healthy way. I was just constantly wanting to be distracted by someone's company. I became very codependent with people. I wasn't really able to do anything by myself without feeling like all eyes are on me, and if people saw me in public, they would think I'm a loser because I didn't have anybody with me. My birthday's at the end of the year, which means when I turned 19, I started to think of New Year's resolutions, and one of them turned out to be less codependent. In reality, I think it was getting over the fear of loneliness. I even said this in one of the first episodes of my other podcast that I used to have. But one of the first steps in order for me to be less codependent is to go to the movies by myself. So once I bought a ticket, the same feeling that I had when I was 13 came back. The sheer embarrassment of going to the movies by yourself, but this time I had to remind myself it's not because no one wanted to, it was because you wanted to get over this wall that was preventing me from enjoying life on my own. I was pacing back and forth in my room saying I shouldn't even go. What's the point of doing it? Even my mom thought it was kind of weird that I was going by myself. Or I shouldn't say she thought it was weird, but she was just mostly concerned and wondering why I decided to do it. Nonetheless, I convinced myself to still go because I already bought the movie ticket and I did not want to waste my money. I went to go see Scream 5 and got Skittles and a large orange high C. Luckily for me, there weren't a lot of people in the theater. The movie was very entertaining. I was actually very shocked at how much I actually enjoyed it. Not only the movie, but the experience of going on my own. It was very freeing and very much calmed me down because I wasn't worried about anyone else but me. When I got back into my car, I even said I can't wait to do it again. This is when I realized the movie theater was my safe space. Whether I go by myself or even with some friends, the feeling that I get every time I get sucked into a new world is very euphoric to me. Even if it's a very intense movie, at the end of the day, I know I'm in my seat and this is my entertainment. But when I'm in my seat, I always tend to imagine what I would do if I was the main character in the movie, and it's always so fun to imagine because typically the main character always ends up being okay. I would like to imagine that it's just foreshadowing my life, that I will always end up okay. I always find it very beautiful when a whole theater laughs at the same time, or gets scared at the same time, or even gets emotional at the same time, and it's all because they all had an interest in seeing the same movie. My love for going to the movie theaters has actually brought me so much joy and connected me to so many people who also love movies as much as I do. I typically go once a week because I'm actually a rewards member. I actually really love it because I always earn points for every purchase that I get, and of course that adds up to getting me free stuff at the concessions. This is not an ad, I swear. But I really love this membership. I even get a free large popcorn and a large drink for my birthday. Also, with this membership, I get my movie tickets comped, so I save so much money even by the second visit. I go so much that I actually started a movie review TikTok account. I love doing it. It's one of my favorite hobbies. My friends always really enjoy watching it because when they finally see the movie, they get to comment and we can have a discussion about it. Also, with me starting that TikTok account, if my friends feel like they want to watch a specific movie, but they don't have anyone else who wants to go see it, they know that I will always say yes if they ask me. It's actually even helped me connect with some of my coworkers that I've never hung out with outside of work because they know I go to the movies a lot and have asked me if they would go see a movie with them because no one else wanted to. I'm like the movie guy to them. All right. So, as you can tell, I love the movie theater. I wanted to write about this because recently I've been really stressed out. I've been working a lot and working on content and working on my acting stuff, whether it's a reel or an audition. And I have honestly just been doing so much, and my mind feels like it's racing a million miles an hour about every step that I need to take. And I skipped, I think, last week or 2 weeks of my typical movie date that I usually go to every week. And I just realized I have a bigger appreciation because when I went this week, I just felt so much better. I felt like I did something for me, like I wasn't worried about anything else but me watching a movie. And it's always been like a love for me with movies. I remember every time like my parents said that if I wanted to go see a movie, I immediately said yes. Like even if like I was hanging out with a friend, I would ask them if they would want to go to the movies. It's always one of like the main things that I ask people to do if they want to hang out, because I think it's just an easy way. Also, if like we're just so tired, but we do want to see each other. Like a movie is like the perfect way to do it because if you're going to the movies, you can probably chat a little bit before the movie starts, but then obviously you don't have to talk too much because you're going to be entertained by the movie. And even like the small talk after the movie, you already know what you can discuss because it'll just be like opinions about the movie, and I really enjoy it. It just brings like me closer to like my group of friends and family. I really love talking about it. My mom loves watching TV. She loves being entertained, and I actually want to even take her to a movie theater where like they like have it dubbed in Spanish for her. I love going by myself specifically because when I go by myself, I get this like euphoric feeling, and I deal with anxiety on a daily basis, and it's just extremely hard when your mind is constantly racing and you can never truly feel a calm moment. But when I go to a movie theater and I sit down with my bucket of popcorn and a drink and maybe a candy, and I get sucked into a whole new world for 2 hours or even more, it is the best feeling because I have no other distractions. I have no other worries besides what's going on in the screen in front of me. And I think I also have like a deeper connection with it because I love art. I love any sort of art that can display emotions. I love that it is entertainment, but for other people, it connects you. It connects with you so much deeper. I'm also an actor, and I love imagining myself being on that screen one day. That's the goal. And it's probably been my biggest dream to do that. But I'm still working on it. I love that I'm still working on it, and I've seen myself on like a big screen before, at a festival, um, or even at a screening of for one of my films. It's just like such a good feeling, and I love that I get to imagine about it because my imagination, I mentioned in the essay that I always will be okay. I will always end up okay because typically in the movies you see the main character go through some sort of a loss, whether it's a friend or they feel like they're losing themselves or a loss of a job. It's inevitable for you to lose something, for you to feel like you're losing yourself, an item, a friend, a partner, a family member, a pet, whether it's an object or a person or even a memory, it's inevitable. And with these movies, it just reminds you no matter how much you lose, you'll always be okay. And that's why I have such a connection with it. It reminds me that I will always end up being okay. And a lot of horror movies. I know, like, I feel like some of y'all are probably thinking about like the horror movies, horror movies about where like no one ends up alive. But I, I don't think that should be the main focus of this video. Okay. Like there's something, in it, in this essay that I talk about, and it's loneliness. And I think a lot of people after high school, they feel so lost. I think it's pretty inevitable for anyone really in their 20s to not feel lost at any sort of class that you're in. You could be super rich but feel like you have no meaning, or you can be super poor and you're just trying to figure out a way for you to get out of that situation. I think it's super relatable. At the end of the day, your journey is specifically made for you, and not everyone has lived the like, exact same life. Actually, no one has. No one has lived the exact same life as you, okay? And I think that's important to remember because when you're in your 20s, you're going to feel alone because you're on your own journey of a multitude of things. You're on your own journey for health. You're on your own journey for your career path, for your education, for what partner you decide to marry or to be with, or if you want kids or not kids. There's so much that comes along, and I think that's like really hard when you get out of high school because you become very codependent because someone has been telling you what to do for the whole 18 years that you were alive, and that's like really scary. But I think once you're out of high school, my biggest recommendation is really to try to push yourself into going to the movies by yourself, because what that did for me was really show me that I can do whatever. It reminded me that I have free will. Please do not forget that you have free will and you are capable of doing literally anything that you want. I know that it sounds scary and I know that it sounds wild, but when I first started to go to the movies by myself or started to do any activity by myself, I remember getting judgment. I would get judgment about like, why you're like, that's so weird, like you sound sad and pathetic. But because I already went by myself and I enjoyed it, and I was like, I don't really care what you think because I really like it, and I think you actually might like it too if you decided to do that instead of being so codependent. There's some people that I know that are not capable of leaving the house unless they have a buddy, whether it's on the phone or in person, and that's just not something that I wanted for myself. I immediately knew that because in this essay I talk about not having friends after high school, you know, like, because there's so many people that went away, and yes, they're still my friends, but when they're away, you can't hang out with them, you know, when you're going through something to make you feel better. And I lost a friend group, you know, that were staying home for school, and that was pretty hard. So I had to figure out on my own how to be happy on my own because I was miserable, you know? Ultimately, what I'm trying to say is that I think after high school, if your fear is still to be alone, and I don't mean in a romantic sense, I mean overall. Like if you're like you feel like you can't do anything, you can't go to the gym by yourself, you can't go get a snack by yourself, you can't go to the lake by yourself, you can't go to a park by yourself and relax, you can't do any of those things for you, then you're not living your life for you. And at some point, you're going to regret that. And I think to just remind yourself, just like baby steps, even if it's like making a sandwich, putting in a Ziploc bag, going in your car, and going to a beach or the lake and just watch the view while you're eating it and just do it for yourself. Don't go on your phone. That does not equal by yourself because you're being distracted by other people's content. Clock it. Okay. But I feel like that was just needed to be discussed because I feel like I've been so stressed out and it just reminded me the value of so much, of how far I've came, of what going to the movie theaters or doing anything really by yourself brings me. It brings confidence and brings peace. I get calm, you know, and I have really bad anxiety. It calms it down. it it tells me that I got over it, of my fear of loneliness, you know, and I'm happy that I figured that out before I even hit 20. You know, I was 19 when I figured that out, and I think that it's never too late, you know, just because I figured it out at 19 doesn't mean you can't figure it out at 24, 25, 26, or even 30s, you know what I mean? Because I feel like a lot of the times we are instilled that we need people. And to a certain degree, I definitely think that you need like someone's advice or someone's help, but don't rely it on every single little detail because you're not going to be living your life for you. And at the end of the day, that's what you're doing for yourself. That's what life is about, for you to live the life that you want, but on your own terms, respectfully. You know? So I hope that you guys enjoyed this video, this audio recording, this podcast episode. I am grateful to say that we are growing a little bit. Um, you know, and I'm really happy about that, guys, and I love the support that I'm getting at the moment, and I hope you guys are doing well, and I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope that you know that you're not truly ever alone, and I hope that you have a marvelous day, week, month, year, and most importantly, life. All right, bye, guys.